The FIFA World Cup is the most watched sporting event on the planet. Over 5 billion people tuned in last time. That's more than half of humanity watching the same thing at the same time. But here's what's crazy. Almost everything you think you know about the World Cup is missing the most interesting parts. Did you know there's a curse that's haunted the tournament for nearly a century? Or that one World Cup winner has never actually lost a match at the tournament? Or that the trophy itself was stolen twice, and one time it was found by a dog? Or that there's a mysterious pattern where hosting the World Cup actually makes it harder to win? Today, we're going deep into the hidden secrets, the bizarre coincidences, the unexplained patterns, and the mind-blowing facts about the World Cup that somehow never make it into the highlight reels. These aren't just fun trivia. These are the stories that make you realize the World Cup is way stranger than anyone admits. Let's dive in. Let's start with something genuinely eerie, the World Cup winner's curse. And this isn't some made-up sports superstition. This is a documented pattern that's held true for over 60 years. Here's the curse. Since 1962, no team has successfully defended their World Cup title and won back-to-back tournaments. Not Brazil with Pelé, not Germany with their dominant squads, not France with their golden generation. Nobody. The last team to win consecutive World Cups was Brazil in 1958 and 1962. That's over 6 decades ago. But it gets weirder. Since 1990, the curse has evolved. Now, the defending champion doesn't just fail to win. They often don't even make it out of the group stage. France won in 1998, then crashed out in the groups in 2002 without scoring a single goal. Italy won in 2006, then failed to escape their group in 2010. Spain won in 2010, then got eliminated in the groups in 2014. Germany won in 2014, then crashed out in the groups in 2018. 4 defending champions in a row, all eliminated in the first round. The only exception was Brazil in 2002, but even they lost in the quarterfinals in 2006 after winning in 2002. What's causing this? Some say it's complacency, some say it's the pressure of expectations, some say it's tactics becoming predictable. But here's what nobody can explain. Why is the pattern so consistent? Why does success at one World Cup almost guarantee failure at the next? And there's another layer to this curse. The host nation advantage is real. Hosts win more often than probability would suggest. But there's a dark side. Nations that host the World Cup often enter a football decline afterward. Argentina won as hosts in 1978, then didn't win again for 44 years. France won as hosts in 1998, but their next win wasn't until 2018. Germany hosted in 2006, made the final, but lost. And they haven't won since, despite being favorites multiple times. It's like the tournament extracts something from teams and nations, giving them one moment of glory, but taking away their ability to repeat it. Coincidence? Maybe. But the pattern is undeniable. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Some of the biggest football nations in history have bizarre, unexplainable World Cup absences. And I'm not talking about missing one tournament. I'm talking about patterns that make no sense. Let's start with Italy. Italy has won 4 World Cups, tied with Germany for second most all time. They're a football superhouse. And yet, Italy failed to qualify for both the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. Back-to-back failures to even make the tournament. How does a 4-time champion, a country obsessed with football, fail to qualify twice in a row? It's like if the United States just forgot how to play basketball. Or look at the Netherlands. The Netherlands has produced some of the greatest football talents in history. Johan Cruyff, Marco van Basten, Ruud Gullit, Dennis Bergkamp, Arjen Robben. They've reached 3 World Cup finals, and they've lost all 3. But here's the weird part. They didn't even qualify for the 2018 World Cup. A nation that consistently produces world-class talent and reaches finals suddenly can't beat Sweden and Bulgaria in qualifying. What changed? And then there's the case of the disappearing teams. Uruguay won the first ever World Cup in 1930. They won again in 1950, two-time champions. Legendary football nation. And then they just faded. They've never won since. They barely make it out of group stages anymore. They're ranked behind teams that didn't exist as independent nations when Uruguay was dominating. What happened? How does a two-time champion become an afterthought? But the strangest absence of all is England. England invented football. The modern game, the rules, the culture, everything started in England. And yet, England has won exactly one World Cup in 1966 on home soil with a controversially allowed goal in the final. That's it. One title. Ever. For the country that created the sport. Meanwhile, Uruguay, with a population smaller than New York City, has 2 titles. It's absolutely baffling. There's also the mystery of the Asian and African giants who never break through. Japan has qualified for 7 consecutive World Cups, has a professional league, has players in top European clubs, and has never made it past the round of 16. Nigeria has more professional players in European leagues than many World Cup winners, and their best ever finish is round of 16. What invisible barrier keeps certain regions from advancing, no matter how much talent they produce? Now let's talk about records that are so absurd, they don't even sound real. These aren't just impressive statistics. These are achievements that seem to defy the laws of probability and human capability. First, Brazil has never missed a World Cup. Not one. They've qualified for every single tournament since the first one in 1930. Every other nation, even the greatest champions, has failed to qualify at some point. Argentina missed 1950 and 1970. Germany missed 1930. Italy missed 2018 and 2022. England missed 1974, 78, and 94. But Brazil, 90, 2 years, 22 tournaments, never missed once. That's not just impressive, it's statistically absurd. Over 9 decades, through military dictatorships, economic collapses, and every kind of crisis, Brazil always qualifies. Second, Miroslav Klose scored 16 World Cup goals across 4 tournaments. That's the all-time record. But here's what's mind-blowing. He never scored more than 5 goals in any single tournament. He was never the top scorer. He just kept showing up, tournament after tournament, consistently finding the net. Most records come from explosive performances. Klose's record came from reliability over 12 years. That might be harder than scoring 10 goals in one tournament. Third, Just Fontaine scored 13 goals in a single World Cup in 1958. That's an average of over 2 goals per game. He only played in 1 World Cup because he got injured and never returned. But that one tournament performance has stood for over 65 years. Modern strikers with better training, better nutrition, better tactics can't touch it. Why? What made that specific tournament allow for such absurd scoring? Fourth, only 8 nations have ever won the World Cup. 8. Out of 79 that have competed, in 22 tournaments over 92 years, only 8 countries have lifted the trophy. That's a 10% success rate. Compare that to other sports. 20 different franchises have won the Super Bowl. 14 different teams have won the NBA championship in that same time period. The World Cup is uniquely top-heavy. Once you're in the winners' club, you tend to stay there. If you're not in it, you probably never will be. And here's a weird one. No host nation has won the World Cup while playing in red jerseys. Every host that won wore their traditional colors, but none were primarily red. Coincidence? Probably. Weird? Absolutely. Now we get to the stories that sound like fiction but are completely documented fact. These are the moments where reality became stranger than any scriptwriter would dare to imagine. Let's start with the trophy itself. The original World Cup trophy, the Jules Rimet trophy, was stolen twice. The first time was in 1966 in England. It was on display and just vanished. Scotland Yard launched a massive investigation, and it was found a week later by a dog named Pickles who was out for a walk with his owner. The dog sniffed it out in a hedge. A dog literally saved the World Cup. Pickles became a national hero and appeared on television. You cannot make this up. The trophy was stolen again in 1983 from Brazil, who had won it permanently after their third championship. This time, it was never recovered. It was likely melted down for the gold, so the most iconic trophy in sports history exists now only in photographs. The current trophy is actually the second version. Then there's the case of the referee who didn't speak the language. In the 1934 tournament, an Austrian referee was assigned to a match between Austria and France. He spoke German. Neither team spoke German. He couldn't communicate with the players. The match descended into chaos because nobody understood what the referee was calling. This was a World Cup quarterfinal. How this happened is beyond comprehension. Or consider the barefoot ban. India qualified for the 1950 World Cup, which was shocking for an Asian nation at the time. But they withdrew because FIFA told them players had to wear shoes. The Indian team played barefoot traditionally, and FIFA said no, so India just didn't come. Imagine if a team today withdrew because of uniform regulations. It would be unthinkable. But it happened. And then there's the darkest story. Andrés Escobar, Colombian defender, scored an own goal in 1994 against the United States. Colombia got eliminated in the group stage. Days after returning home, Escobar was shot and killed outside a bar. The killer reportedly shouted "goal" with each shot. It's alleged that drug cartels had bet heavily on Colombia and lost money. One own goal, and a man was murdered. That's not sports. That's a reminder of how deeply football is woven into society, for better and terrifyingly for worse. There's also Roberto Rojas, the Chilean goalkeeper who tried to fake an injury in 1989 by cutting himself with a hidden razor blade to make it look like a flare hit him, hoping to get Brazil disqualified. He got caught. He got banned for life. Chile got banned from the 1994 tournament. One of the most brazen cheating attempts in sports history, captured on camera, ending a career and costing a nation a World Cup. Now let's talk about coincidences and patterns that are so strange. You start wondering if there's something deeper going on. These aren't exactly curses or conspiracies, but they're patterns that probability says shouldn't exist. First, European teams never win the World Cup in South America. Ever. The World Cup has been hosted in South America 5 times. Brazil, 1950, Chile, 62, Argentina, 78, Brazil, 2014. Every single time a South American team won. Even when European teams are overwhelming favorites, they lose. In 2014, Germany finally broke. Wait. No. Actually, they became the first European team to win in South America. But it took 84 years and 5 tournaments for it to happen once. Why? Is it climate, travel, altitude, hostile crowds? Nobody knows. But the pattern was undeniable for decades. Second, the penalty shootout curse. The Netherlands has lost 4 penalty shootouts at World Cups. England has lost 3. These aren't just bad luck. These are patterns. Meanwhile, Germany has won all 4 of their World Cup penalty shootouts. All 4. 100% success rate. That's not random. That suggests either psychological advantage, better preparation, or something cultural that we don't fully understand. Third, the final goal pattern. In the last 6 World Cup finals that were decided in regular or extra time, not on penalties, the winning goal was scored in the second half, or extra time. Only one final was decided in the first half in the last 30 years. Finals are either drawn-out battles or late drama. The early goal finals just don't happen anymore. Why? Fourth, the group stage rotation. There's a pattern where the same nations tend to end up in the same groups repeatedly. Germany and Portugal have been grouped together multiple times. Brazil and Croatia keep meeting. England and the United States seem to always draw each other. FIFA claims the draw is random, but statisticians have noted these repeat pairings happen more often than true randomness would allow. Is someone manipulating draws? Probably not, but it's weird. Fifth, the jersey color advantage. Teams playing in their primary colors win more often than teams playing in their alternate kits. This has been studied, and the effect is real. Home advantage exists even in neutral venues if you're wearing your traditional colors. Why? Psychology, familiarity, referee bias, nobody knows. But, if you're playing in your second or third kit, you're statistically more likely to lose. Now let's talk about what's coming, because the World Cup is about to change in ways that create entirely new mysteries and patterns to decode. In 2026, the tournament expands to 48 teams. That's 16 more than ever before. This will be the biggest World Cup in history, and nobody really knows how it'll work. More teams means more games, more upsets, more chaos. But will it mean more competitive balance? Probably not. The same 8 winners club will likely continue dominating. But with 48 teams, we'll see nations competing that have never qualified before. Pacific Island nations, more African teams, Central Asian countries. The map of football is expanding. But here's the weird part. Expanding the tournament might actually make it easier for favorites to win. How? Because with more teams, the group stage becomes less dangerous, the knockout rounds get deeper, the elite teams have more margin for error. So we might see the tournament become more predictable, not less. That would be ironic and disappointing. There's also the multi-nation hosting trend. 2026 will be split between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. That's 3 countries. The logistics are insane. Teams will travel thousands of miles between matches. The host advantage gets diluted because there are 3 hosts. What does this do to the patterns we've discussed? Does the winner's curse still apply if there are 3 hosts? Do home crowds still matter if you're playing in 3 different countries? And then there's technology. VAR has already changed the game. Semi-automated offside detection is now standard. Goal line technology is everywhere. What's next? AI referees, real-time biometric monitoring, matches played in virtual reality. The World Cup has always been a place where football traditions collide with modern innovation, and that collision is accelerating. But the biggest mystery of all is this. Why does the World Cup matter so much? Why do 5 billion people care about something that ultimately doesn't affect their lives at all? Why do riots break out over football matches? Why do nations spend billions hosting? Why does a 90-minute game inspire more passion than elections, more unity than religion, more emotion than almost anything else humans do? Here's one theory. The World Cup is the last truly global shared experience. In a fragmented world where everyone lives in their own information bubble, watches their own streaming services, follows their own interests, the World Cup is the one thing that still brings half the planet together at the same time. For 1 month every 4 years we all watch the same thing, talk about the same moments, share the same emotions. Another theory, the World Cup taps into something tribal and primal. National identity in the modern world is complicated and often meaningless. But when your country plays in the World Cup, suddenly you're part of something bigger. You're connected to millions of strangers who want the same outcome. That feeling of collective identity is increasingly rare, and the World Cup provides it in concentrated form. Or maybe it's simpler. Humans love stories, and the World Cup is the greatest story-generating machine ever created. Underdogs shocking favorites, legends cementing their status, villains getting their comeuppance. Tragedy and triumph compressed into 3-week spans. Every tournament creates dozens of narratives that people will talk about for years. Whatever the reason, the World Cup has transcended sport. It's become a cultural phenomenon that reveals things about human nature, about society, about what we value and why we care. And that's why these hidden stories matter. They're not just trivia, they're windows into understanding why this tournament has such a grip on global consciousness. So there you have it. The curse of the defending champion, the mysterious absences of football giants, the unbreakable records that seem to mock probability, the bizarre stories that sound like fiction, the patterns that shouldn't exist but do, and the ultimate question of why any of this matters at all. The World Cup isn't just about who wins, it's about the strange, unexpected, unexplainable things that happen along the way. It's about curses and coincidences and moments that make you question if there's something more going on than just 22 people chasing a ball. Next time you watch the World Cup, pay attention to the weird stuff. Notice the patterns. Question the coincidences. Because the greatest sporting event in the world is even stranger than anyone admits. And that's what makes it beautiful. Thanks for watching.